7 ways to make a man give you money without even asking. Now listen, when a man falls in love, the natural response is to give. A man will give his intellect, his energy, his skills, money, resources, everything when he falls in love. Look at what happened to God. When God loved the world, the natural response was to give. John 3:16, the Bible says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." Now here are 7 ways to make a man give you money without even asking. Number 1, activate feminine energy. You see, feminine energy is always aligned with receiving. Masculine energy is aligned with giving. When you activate your feminine energy, what you're doing, you're positioning yourself to receive, and that's why the man will keep giving. But if you pick masculine energy, what you're doing, you become combative, you become competitive, you become abrasive, and most likely you will not receive anything. That's why it's always recommended for women not to become like men. Women should just be women. The Bible says in Deuteronomy 22:5, "A woman shall not wear a man's garment, nor shall a man put on a woman's cloak, for whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord your God." Number 2, express yourself with respect. By the way, the love language of men is respect. The love language of women is love. So now what you do when you activate respect, when you speak to a man with respect, what you're doing, you're actually activating his love language. And we know what happens, he'll start giving to you. Look at what happened to Esther. When Esther walked before the king, she had a lot of respect towards the king. And the next thing, the king just wanted to give her. Esther 5:2, when he saw Queen Esther standing there in the inner court, he welcomed her, holding out the gold scepter for her. So Esther approached and touched its tip. Then the king asked her, "What do you want, Queen Esther? What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it's half my kingdom." Number 3, invest in intelligence and capability. Now listen to this one. If a man notices that you can actually provide for yourself, you can manage yourself and handle yourself, they know that this is not desperation. So they will end up giving you. Money is always attracted to money. Look at what happened to the Proverbs 31 woman. The Bible says in verse 13, she finds wool and flax and busily spins it. Then verse 14, she's like a merchant's ship. She brings her food from afar. Verse 15, she gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household and plan the day's work for her servant girl. See, she's also a leader. Verse 16, she goes out to inspect a field and buys it. She's an entrepreneur with her earnings, and she plants a vineyard. Now, if a man notices that you can actually handle yourself, that's when they'll even give you more money. Number 4, be good-hearted. People that are kind to others, they end up attracting favor. That's what happens. And not just being good to the people that you want to marry you, being good to everyone. The one that you meet, the guys at the gate, everywhere in town, be good to people. You never know. There's someone that you might be good to that is a friend of someone that you need to know. Now the Bible says in the book of Genesis 24:21, this is about Rebecca, how kind she was to an old man. The Bible says the servant watched her in silence, wondering whether or not she was the one the Lord intended to meet. What was happening at that time is that Rebecca was serving this old man. She was actually giving water to his camels. And now this is what happened because of her good-heartedness. Bible says in verse 22, then at last, when the camels had finished drinking, he gave her a gold ring for her nose and 2 large gold bracelets for her wrists. See, she gets given things because she was kind. Number 5, be submissive. Most women have a problem with submission, but I always say, submit yourself to a man who's already submitted himself to God. You'll never have a problem with that. By the way, submission comes with freedom because now the man becomes responsible for you. Look at what happens, kings and subjects. The kings always feel obliged to provide for their subjects. Now the Bible says in 1 Peter 3:5, for this is how the holy women who hoped in God used to adorn themselves, by submitting to their own husbands. Number 6, marinate them with food. There's just something about food. Food brings people together. It bonds people together. People go for meals, for dinner, for dates to eat. There's something about food. They say the easiest way to a man's heart is through the stomach. Even in the Bible, people like Ruth, they were told, don't go to Boaz until he's eaten. Esther, when she wanted to share something with the king, she first gave the king food, and then she was given what she wanted. The Bible says in Esther 5 verse 5, this is the king. The king turned to his attendants and said, tell Haman to come quickly to a banquet that Esther has requested. So the king and Haman went to Esther's banquet. Verse 6, the Bible says, and while they were drinking wine, the king said to Esther, this is after a meal. No, the king is ready to give something and says, now tell me what you really want, Esther. What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it's half the kingdom. My friend, secrets to get things even without asking for money. Number 7, paint him a picture. Men are logical in nature, and sometimes if you really want something to be done, paint a picture. Like you can insinuate something. Like you can walk him through a shop and tell him, I would love such a shop. Don't borrow money. He has recorded it in his mind that my girl would like a shop, and you know what? He will want it. But now when you're doing it, paint a picture. Men like it when a picture is painted. You remember the story of Abraham. He was being told, I am going to give you descendants. You'll be a father of nations. But Abraham was not understanding a thing. So what did God do? God called him outside and told him, hey, look at the stars. Those will be your descendants. Even Jesus always used parables because there's something about painting a picture. People tend to understand and it becomes easy. Now try these things. You'll be shocked at how much money or how much blessings you're going to receive from your man.